Welcome to the Self-Awareness and Self-Compassion Podcast, formerly known as the Full Spectrum Feeling Podcast. I'm your host, Blaise Schwaller, life coach, mom, and former tattoo artist. I help people heal their past, speak their truth, and love the lives that they're living now. Join me here every week for conversations on how to live an imperfect but fully engaged life that embraces all the feels so that you can stretch into your best life while enjoying the you that's here right now. Hey guys, it's Blaise. I just wanted to have a little intro to say what you're about to listen to is a pre-recorded practice session for a talk that I gave out in Berlin this past month, and it was really enjoyable to go there and do it live. Now, this recording is actually different from what happened live, of course, because it always is, but I thought that it was worth sharing because it shares a lot about how to take care of yourself, how your mind works, how your heart and your emotions work, and how you can use that understanding and understanding of your body and how you feel as an embodied being in order to have more self-compassion, which I know we could all use more of. So, without further ado, please enjoy.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, and thank you for that marvelous welcome. I am Blaise Schwaller. I am a life coach. I help people deal with their emotions and their feelings and their thoughts and their minds. I try to get them both on the same page so that you can feel better, you can express yourself clearer, you can actually get down to the bottom of what it is that you really, really, really want. And you're able to share that with the world more clearly. It helps people feel in the zone, be in their lane more often, feel like they're actually accomplishing not only things, but things that are important to them, which leads to a happier life, and it leads to spreading happiness around them. So I really love what I do. And I'm very excited to be here tonight to talk about compassion, and not just any kind of compassion, not the Mother Teresa, I'm going to save the world compassion, although I'm sure all of you have some of that, but the kind of compassion that is facing towards ourselves, the kind of love that we all want, need, desire, and we often look for everywhere but from ourselves. So my hope is that through the course of this evening, I'm able to share with you some experiences of my own life and some examples of where I've gone awry in this department and where things have gone really well. And hopefully those stories will stick with you and help you remember in your own life ways to bring more self-acceptance, more awareness of what's going on more broadly in your situations, and ultimately lead you to live a more lighthearted, happier, more peaceful and kind life in regards to yourself. How does that sound? Yes, it sounds wonderful. For me as well. So, I've been thinking a lot about growth and the self-growth movement. We all are trying to expand ourselves. And you're here tonight because you desire more for yourself, right? You desire more love, more knowledge, a deeper toolbox of ways to handle life. And I love that about you because I am the same. If there is a class, I want to take it. I want to learn a new thing, and then I want to do it, and then I want to learn more. So I honor that in you. And we also have a challenge when it comes to this because when we desire to accomplish big things, we can brush up against lots of feelings and thoughts that I call these unconscious, unwanted, bad voices in our heads. The ones that say, this is too hard for you, maybe you're not meant for this isn't going well, why is it so hard? All of those kinds of thoughts. And these are all very human experiences. This is something that everyone in their life definitely, absolutely feels. So how do we reach for our highest and most self-aware, most expansive self while honoring the fact that we're human and we have shitty thoughts and we have shitty feelings, and those things make it hard. So it's like we're trying to swim very far, but we're dragging behind us like a big heavy bag of rocks everywhere we go. So I want to help give you some tools, some experiences, some ways to let go of all the rocks that we're dragging behind us as we pursue our dreams and pursue our goals. But in order to do this, I'm going to take you on a little bit of a journey. So what I would like all of you to do now, and I promise we're going to transform some stuff today. I want you to think of a situation in your life, something that's ongoing maybe, or something that just happened this week that's making you a little stressed out, that's making you feel like you're judging yourself a little bit, where you're like, oh gosh, I'm just bad at that. This is so frustrating. I have no idea how I'm going to overcome this. And just in this next minute or two, I want you to get in touch with that sensation and that feeling. What does it feel like? Where are you carrying it in your body? Are you feeling tense in your shoulders? Are you feeling like there's not enough room in your head in order to think or see clearly? Do you feel like you kind of need to move more, or is it actually feeling like a weight? Whatever that sensation is, just tap into it now and be aware that there's something going on there. And we're going to get into what that is and how we're going to deal with it over the course of the next hour, so that by the end, I want you to be able to check in and we'll see how you're feeling, and hopefully it'll be a lot lighter and a lot more free than you are right now. If I tap into one of mine, and I'll share with you because this is a journey and we're all going through it. One of the things that I am the most anxious about and I stress the most about is driving and being on the road, particularly at night. I know it's upcoming. Having to deal with traffic, going places I haven't been before. And the thoughts that I have are, I'm bad at this. I hate it. I'm not great at driving. Oh my God, why do I have to do this? Like, those are the thoughts. The accompanying feelings is a tightness across my shoulders. Like it really is like connected to like gripping the steering wheel with a death grip. That exists for me. Clenching of my butt a little bit. Like it's all very tight. So that's the sensation. So just to give you an example of what that is. But don't worry, because I'm not going to leave you there. We're going to find ways to cope and deal with these feelings so that they're not taking over your life and they don't have to keep repeating. So we're going to set that aside for now, and we'll come back to it in a little bit. So the first thing that I want to tell you about is a little story about me, because why not? The experiences that I have had in attempting to stretch for a goal and to change something about myself that I didn't like. So we're going to go back, oh gosh, I'm going to make myself seem very old now, 20 years. We're going to go back more than 20 years, back when I was beginning my tattoo apprenticeship. Because before I became a speaker and a life coach, I was a tattoo artist. But this was just before I began the apprenticeship. And here I was, working a job as a receptionist because I had graduated art school. And when I got to the end, there just weren't jobs for people who had a fine art painting degree. Everything said you need a bachelor's, but nothing said I want someone who paints. And when I looked towards advertising jobs or graphic design jobs, everything was about working on computers. And this was the beginning of the computer age, I guess. Gosh, isn't it crazy to think of that it wasn't really established quite the way it is now then. And they were looking for people to design logos and to do things that I didn't feel like I was, interested in at all, because I wanted to paint portraits of people and animals and all those fun things. I was really good at copying stuff, but not necessarily so great at generating an idea for like fonts and like a logo. Just, it was stressing me out. So I was starting to realize I was having trouble getting jobs. I got myself a job just answering phones, which is the same kind of job I had had before I went to college. And I was starting to have the self-defeating thoughts of, oh my God, what have I done? I've spent thousands of dollars going to school for a degree that I'm not even using. And I thought I wanted to be an artist. It's why I went back to school in the first place. But there seems to be no place for me here. So I was feeling pretty dejected and pretty sad. I felt like I just didn't really belong anywhere. And I spent a lot of time hiding in my old room upstairs, hiding from my parents, hiding from the world, feeling pretty ashamed. And one day, a friend of mine came over and said, hey, have you ever thought about maybe getting into tattoos? And the thought tickled me in an interesting way. And I thought, well, how do you even do that? And can someone like me, someone who's kind of scared of people and everything, I know you wouldn't believe it of me now, but at the time, it's very shy, very quiet, did not want to be in front of people at all. I wasn't prepared for that. And could I draw something permanently on someone else and be okay with that. And I was like, you know what, though? It's got to be better than answering phones, right? So I was like, all right, maybe I will take a look at this and see if I can give it a try, because I had the momentum behind me of like, gosh, I really want to be able to draw. I actually am really good at copying things. I have a lot of artistic skills and I have like no outlet right now. And I don't want to be just living in my parents' upstairs for the rest of my life, hiding and answering telephones. Like, it's just not the life I had dreamed for myself. And so I began to look for an apprenticeship. And I went to several places and I talked to lots of people, and I found out that far from being like just diving in and drawing on people, they don't even let you do that at first, thank God. But they have you observe and they have you learn, and you pay a lot of money and they teach you, and you learn how to do things properly and sterilize all of the stuff. So I'm learning all of those things. And I did say yes to an apprenticeship. And I realized about a few weeks in that it was going to start to be a problem, because I am afraid of blood. And how could I have forgotten that this was a thing about me also? So here I was thinking that the greatest barrier would be my fear of showing up or making a mistake or having to like do permanent drawings on people. No. The thing that was going to freak me out was that when you're stabbing holes into people and drawing on them, blood happens. And what happens to me when I see blood is that my butt clenches up. Like, there's a strange sensation. I don't even know how to describe it, because it's unique to just the experience of seeing a wound. And it happens not just if I see actively flowing blood. It happens when I see that you have a scab and maybe you got hurt last week. Oh my God, what was I thinking deciding to be a tattoo artist? What was I thinking? So these are the thoughts that started to come into my head, because I would start having anxiety and fear whenever I would go in, going, oh my God, they're going to make me not only look at someone who's bleeding, but I'm going to have to actually be the one touching them, and I'm going to have to clean it up, and I'm going to be like really in it actively. And not only that, I'm causing them to bleed. Oh, what am I going to do? So I found that I was having trouble focusing, having trouble figuring it out. And yet, here's what else was happening in my life. I was realizing that working my day job, where I was answering the phones and being in the office, was no longer working for me. So I was faced with, I'm going to keep showing up to a job in which I get all of my work done in the first 2 hours, but then I have 6 hours where I'm required to be there and I can't do anything but just sit there, stare at a wall, or stare out the window. And it was starting to give me an eye twitch, and I was starting to just be in pain and clenched all the time. And my eye would be twitching violently all week long. And then as soon as we hit Friday afternoon, suddenly I would be better. And I would get through my weekend, but around Sunday mid-morning, mid-afternoon, the twitch would come back, and I realized, oh my God, it's this job. This is going to be my future if I keep doing this thing that I can't do anymore. It's not working for me. Like, there's no accommodation for me to be creative here. So this is my thought, I need to make tattooing work. So when I'm showing up for the tattoo apprenticeship and I'm realizing that I have this giant hurdle of, oh my God, people are going to be bleeding. I'm going to have to deal with that. I'm going to cause someone pain, and sensations are happening, and I'm feeling very scared, and I'm worried about freaking out or just disappointing people. What the hell am I going to do? So I take a breath and I decide I'm just going to have to make it work. And I think to myself, you know what, Blaze? Yes, I am terrified of blood. I am really unhappy that this is where we're at. But you know what, Blaze? We're going to do it. We're going to find a way. And I really did make a decision when I realized that the eye twitch thing was happening and that I wasn't functioning in my regular job. I just decided, I'm going to be a tattoo artist. It's not going great at the moment because I'm really, really scared. I probably won't be scared forever. It's going to be okay. Let's do this. And I just decided to commit 100%. I'm just going in and I'm going to deal with this, and it may go sideways. It might be very scary. So I showed up, and I never even really told my boss, the guy that I was apprenticing under, that I'm so scared of blood, because I figured he doesn't need to know that. I don't need him to pity me. I'm not here to be pitied. I'm here to learn a skill. So what I started to do was really focus on application. What is it technically that we're doing? And can I just do it and immerse myself? And I began to be told, guess what? You're going to do a tattoo on me. My boss had me tattoo him first. This is very exciting. And I had the machine in my hand, and I'm doing the very first dip into the ink. It's making the sound, and my hand is vibrating. I'm like, oh my God, this is so much crazier than I even thought it was. And I go to put the line down, and as soon as the needles touch the skin, so much ink wells up. So this is black ink. I'm doing an outline, and just ink goes everywhere. And there's a drawing on the sky that I'm supposed to be tracing the lines on, and I suddenly can't even see it. And he's like, okay, you have to wipe away the ink so that you can see where the line is, and you're just going to have to keep following that line. And here's how we go. And I began to do it. And every time I would touch the needles to the skin, ink would well up and there would be some blood. But thankfully, in the very first few tattoos that I did, I was mostly using black ink, which was very dark. So even though I knew and sometimes could see on the paper towel that I was using to wipe away that there was red on there was definitely blood, I would see it, the butt clenching response would happen, and I would think to myself, it's going to be okay. There's a lot of ink. There's a lot of ink here. Just focus on the ink, and it's okay. We're scared, but it's okay. You're like, they're not dying. You're not dying. It's okay. He asked me to do this. It's going to be okay. So this was the mantra that I had going in my head throughout, honestly, almost the first 6 months of tattooing. Is it's a lot of ink. It's only ink. It's going to be okay. Yep, this is stressful, and it's okay. And believe it or not, within the first couple of weeks of doing this, we started going into other colors. There were other colors. It was starting to be easier to see that, yes, there was blood in there. But I just kept saying to myself, there's an awful lot of ink. How are you going to make this happen? And it turned out that by 6 months in, I had overcome this phobia, this thing that I was so devastatingly terrified of that would prevent me from getting anywhere with tattooing. And whenever I did tattoos, I wasn't really even worried about it anymore. I knew it was going to happen. I definitely saw it. I had to clean it up. I was dealing with it, but I was much more concerned with the logistics of how was I going to do this tattoo? How was I going to interact with my client? How was I going to get better? Because, oh my God, when you're learning to tattoo, you have a huge motivation to get better every single time. You know that you're going to start out not being the greatest, and you know that every day you should be seeing improvement so that next year your tattoos are better than this year, and the year after that you're better, and you're just constantly focused on slow and progressive improvement. What is remarkable about this experience, I learned in retrospect, which was that I did a combination of things to get past that fear and to get better at life, honestly, through doing this, that actually changed the way my brain is wired. Because here's another interesting fact, my friends. I did not get over my fear of blood. I am still scared if I see that you have a scab or you've had a surgery or anything like that. If I see you have a scar, it's like my whole body goes, oh my God, there was pain and you were hurt one time. And I'm so upset for you. However, the cool part is that in the context of tattoos, I don't care anymore. I'm perfectly okay with it. It's become normalized and everything's okay. So why did that happen? Why is it that I can still have a very, very real phobia of blood in almost all cases, but not in the context of tattooing? And here, my friends, is what happened. And here's how we start to modify the way we think and modify the way our brains handle things and how our emotions handle things. So number one, the very first part is that I just made a decision that it was okay to be upset. It was okay not to like it. It was okay to be terrified. And I still was going to be there for myself because it was just what we were doing. That was such a powerful decision because it made the situation of being afraid, my feelings, were valid. They were happening, but they were no longer the basis of how I was going to make decisions. So I was able to be there for myself and go, yep, this 100% sucks. I 100% agree with myself. This blows. I do not enjoy this at all. But you know what else I don't enjoy is being miserable, answering phones for someone with nothing to do all day for 40 hours a week, with no ability to draw, no ability to interact with people, and no outlet for myself. I know myself well enough to realize I'm never going to thrive in that situation. So yes, it's terrifying over here, and there's this one thing that's really hard and scary, and I hate it. But it's just this one aspect. I'm sure that I can handle it. So I had some confidence in myself. I was like, there's some way. There has to be some way. If there's not, this is the other thing I told myself. If there's not a way to get over it, I can surely find another job answering phones or find something else to do. But isn't it worth giving this a shot just to see if maybe it opens up my life, if maybe it gives me the opportunity to be someone different, to try something else out? And it did. All right, so there's the being there 100% for yourself, saying, yep, this sucks, and you're not disagreeing. So why is it important not to disagree with yourself? It's important not to disagree because as soon as you tell yourself, don't believe this thing, this is terrible, don't believe it, what happens? Yeah, you immediately you argue with yourself. You're like, but there's 1,000 reasons why. Of course I'm upset. I need to be allowed to be upset. So you allow yourself to be upset. It lets it kind of naturally step off to the side rather than becoming the center of attention. There's other things that were cool about this decision as well. So another one is that I told myself the mantra, right? It's only ink. There's an awful lot of ink here. And I did it every single time I would start to see the red ink or the blood happen. And this was cool because it was an equally true statement. I could have thought, oh my God, there's blood. Look at all that blood. Oh my God, how are you going to clean up this blood? The blood is getting in the way. That is not what I did. No. I said, whew, there's an awful lot of ink. And it was true. There's an awful lot of ink. How am I going to clear this away and still do a good drawing? I had so many actual technical, important questions and problems to solve that I had plenty of other things to give my brain to chew on. Plenty of things for my mind to latch onto and solve. And every single time I would start to get the feeling, I would say, you know what, there's an awful lot of ink, and I'm nervous, and I'm worried about the tattoo coming out well, and all these other things. And those were also true. I was genuinely worried, like, oh my God, am I doing a terrible job? Geez, this is permanent. People are paying me. I better do a good job. So there was that very valid and real stress alongside it. But that was a stress that I knew how to handle. And I'm sure that all of you have stress in your life that you actually are really good at handling and you know how to handle already. So if you have something that's coming up that you're like, God, I just don't know how to handle, or wow, this isn't going really great, there is something else that's probably equally true that you are very good at handling. And I want to remind you of that fact. You actually have skills. You know how to cope with certain kinds of stress, and you do it really, really well. Thank God, right? Whew. We have that. So we show up. We don't deny that what's happening is giving us feelings. And then we agree with ourselves about it. And then we say something that is also true about the situation that lets our mind have something else to focus on. There's an awful lot of ink. How am I going to handle it? Now, the last really cool thing that was happening here that I only realized very much in retrospect was that as I was doing this, just through the sheer quantity of times that I was exposing myself to the situation and learning how to cope with it, I was actually building up a track record of success. I was building up experiences of overcoming and having the appearance or the existence of blood or seeing someone be wounded become less traumatic because I'm seeing it every day and I'm actually around it so often and nothing terrible has happened to me or my client, at least not in relation to the blood, that my body started to be able to relax and go, this is completely normal. It's actually kind of okay. Well, thank God, right? Thank goodness that's what happens. So by being able to be with yourself long enough and to be able to say, I'm going to show up anyway. I'm going to be here. I'm going to try the new thing. There's something else for me to think about here that's also important that I can focus on. And actually, it's going pretty well. After several weeks, several days, several months, 20 tattoos, I suddenly realized that blood is no longer that big of a concern for me. I have other things that I'm actually really excited about, that I'm so thankful for. And now gratitude came into the situation as well. So I started to be really grateful that I was being taught all of this amazing new techniques, that I was meeting all of these really cool people. I was so thankful for their trust. And in putting myself in that kind of a situation where, like, not only am I overcoming something that's hard for me, but I'm giving something to someone else, it was able to really overcome a gap for me about, making it all about me. It wasn't about me anymore. It was really about what could I do for other people. And it was also about self-improvement, but it was self-improvement for a purpose. And it stopped being even about my purpose. It stopped being about only, hey, can Blaze find something to do that doesn't make me want to stab my eyeballs out at the end of the day because I just don't want to look at this computer screen anymore and just enter order entries and answer the phone. No, now it was about how can I show up and help someone see their vision or their dream come to life on their skin. I actually have a skill that can help make that happen. Wow. I'm so thankful that I found a way to use it. And in a greedy way, I was even like, gosh, I'm so thankful that I was able to find a way to put my degree to use, because that felt really good too. And it started to alleviate some of the pains that I had felt earlier, which was the thoughts of why have I chosen so poorly? Why have I gone so far astray in my life that I don't use my degree, or I don't even know why I did that. So to bring it back to all of you, what's going on when we are feeling these feelings of judgment, having these stresses about why are things the way they are? Why am I having such difficulty with this? Let's go back. I told you I would bring it back to the situation that you were thinking of earlier. What was happening? What is that thing that's been causing you some stress? And you find it again in your body and go, all right, what's happening here? And I'm remembering like, oh yeah, like the clenched up shoulders, clenched up torso, tight butt, gotta run away, death grip on the steering wheel, all of that, raising heartbeat. And I can be there with it for a moment and just try along with me if you find that sensation. And what would happen if just for now you said, yes. Yes. Sure does suck. Not fun having that sensation. Not fun being there. Yeah. And what I notice when I do that is that I immediately feel like I can settle in. Like there's a little bit of relief there. My body is like, oh, thank you. Thank you for not denying that it was there, because then I was going to have to fight you even more and show up even tighter and give you more of this so that you'd finally hear how upset I am about this whole thing existing. So I go, okay, it exists. It exists. Life is always going to throw us stuff that we don't like, that we feel like we're unprepared for, that we're not sure how to resolve. Other people are doing things and it's just making us so mad. Why can't they just react the way that we want them to react? Why are they making our life so hard? And it causes us actual physical sensations, as well as the emotion, as well as the thoughts. But when we can just go directly to, how is my body right now feeling? How is my body right now experiencing this whole situation? Now you have something else to think about. Isn't that interesting? Your body's now like, I wonder what that sensation is. And you can try to hold on to it, but usually once you acknowledge that it's there, it becomes very much less of a problem. It's just a thing that's happening or that just happened. And maybe because we're allowing it to be there and going, okay, I'm a little bit tight about this and it's making me a little anxious. All right. We've done something kind for ourselves because we've allowed ourselves to separate from our belief, our unwavering belief in our story about why it is and how we need to change it. And instead we're just letting it be. Isn't that one of those phrases that we hear all the time? Just let it be. I think what let it be really means is just allow it to exist without telling it it's wrong, without needing to change it right now, just going, this is the situation. I wonder if it could be a little different. I wonder how I could lean into this pain or just move or adjust where it feels a little bit better. Once it becomes a physical sensation, it's really no longer quite as distressing as when it's a situation that we have to resolve. I'm sure some of you are like, but sometimes there are things that we have to resolve. And indeed, you are correct. Obviously, we're all living our life and we have to show up and we have to fend for ourselves. I don't even want to say fend for ourselves. That just sounds like we're like in a fight all the time. Like, oh my God, you got to defend yourself. You got to get in there. And I think to return it to self-compassion, to be able to actually give ourselves some kindness. We need to recognize that that's how we've been operating. We've been operating in our life as though everything is a conflict or a fight, or that if I get my way, then someone else might not get theirs, or someone's going to be upset and it might as well be me. Ooh, yes. Okay. This is an important thing to talk about. If you are the kind of people pleaser that I sometimes find myself being, and I'm sure actually probably all of you, like you're here because you care about being a better person, right? Finding ways to take care of yourself, take care of others. Like you're doing it for a purpose, not just for yourself, but probably to improve the lives of everyone around you. And you might have a tendency to, in your life, people are around you and they want stuff and you can probably provide stuff. And you might say yes an awful lot to what people are asking you to do. And over time, you're saying no to yourself a lot and you're putting your own desires, your own needs, the things that you wanted on the back burner. You might not even be mentioning them, but they're still in your head because it's your life and it's how you're experiencing things. So what happens when we say yes and we're doing nice things for people and they come over, hey, can you help me out? Hey, can you help me do this thing? Hey, it would be great if you could show up and do blah, 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 blah. And you're realizing, oh my God, I don't have energy for that, but I'm going to say yes because I really want you to like me. Oh, I really want you to think of me as a good person. I'm a good person. Of course, I'm going to show up for you. But resentment starts to build. So I kind of want to talk about that too, because a key to having more happiness in your life, right? Being able to show up better, not only for others, but for yourself, but especially for yourself, is recognizing this tendency, seeing it as it's happening, which of course is the self-awareness part, and being able to communicate what's going on. And we start with ourselves. We always have to start with ourselves. So, in life, we have to walk this fine balance, right? So we're on the road and we're trying to make decisions that really support us in becoming more of what we value, right? We all have something that's important to us. And for many of us, let's say it's about being a kind or generous person. And being kind and generous, you're wanting to say yes and support other people. You see them say, hey, I need some help with something. And you say, oh, sure, I'd love to help. And your kids need something. Gosh, they always need something. And you're like, yes, let me help. Let me put aside this other thing that my boss needs because I need to help you. And then your boss calls and is like, oh my God, I need this other thing. You're like, oh, okay, I'm going to find a way to do it. I don't have time to do it. And we realize that we're starting to operate under a great deal of stress. And most of the time, what happens is rather than saying, this is what's happening and I probably could do something about it. No. We're not generally that aware or even having the energy available to make that kind of decision. So I'll acknowledge that right now. But we need to figure out how to say, I really appreciate that you're asking me, that you care about me, that you want me to be the one to help you. And I'm currently at very low capacity. I don't have a lot of energy coming in, and I need to do something to remedy that in order to be able to show up for you and do the thing that you want. And not only do we need to do that, but we also need to communicate to the other person in a way that they can hear, because often they're just as panicked and stressed and upset as we are. And that's like our empathic people. Like we feel that. We want to please them and we want them to feel good about us and feel good about them. We don't want to cause them pain, just like tattooing, right? Like I don't want to cause other people pain. That would make bad sensations happen. Oh my God. So we try to avoid it at all costs. And part of that is because our value is on not causing pain. Our value is on making sure other people are uplifted, that we're making sure that everyone's getting what they need. And we always forget that we also are at the table. We also need to be taken care of. We also need time to recuperate. We might also need help. And often the people that need help the most are the ones that will not ask for it. Does that sound kind of familiar, maybe too familiar? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we're going to take a breath together to just kind of like release some of that energy. And I want you to, even if you feel like it, putting a hand over your heart to breathe in. Oh, hi self. I recognize that sometimes I say yes to everyone but you. sometimes I'm willing to work so hard to please everyone. But you, I'm so sorry, self. Today, I'm going to be here. Today, I'm going to be here with myself. Today, I'm going to allow some space for us to feel what we feel and to let some of this out so that it's no longer such a burden, and finally, we're able to be heard. Yes. So I could probably talk for the next half hour about why we do this to ourselves. And some of it you probably already know. You're all smart people. You're in a library. You came here tonight because you know where to look for information. You know where to look for answers. But we'll do a quick brush up. So the very first quick sum up is our brains are there to help us solve problems. And it pretty much is wired to notice all of the bad things and to think of all of the terrible outcomes. And it wants to prevent us from suffering. But it thinks it knows better than us about what that suffering might be. Basically, our brain is still thinking that, okay, if anything bad, if we ever have a bad feeling at all, it probably means we're getting chased by lions. We're going to freaking die. So we really need to pay attention to every minute detail of how this unraveled. Where did it go wrong? How can we prevent it from ever, ever, ever happening again? Because, dear God, if it happened again, we might die. That's just how it is. We might die. And unfortunately, for most of us, most of our most terrible experiences and things that we don't ever want to experience again are often interactions with other people, or just like billing departments, or getting like stuff in the mail, or just bad news. It's not actually life-threatening things most of the time, and yet our body really takes it as though it is. The signals go off, and our brain says, don't worry, I'm on it. I've got this. I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you prevent this from ever happening again. And the trouble is that we don't know how to turn that voice off. We don't know how to, one, become aware that that's what's happening, and that's the loop that we're caught in. So first we have to be able to notice that it's happening, and then we need to be able to have something to say, something to do to make it calm down, to make it okay and safe for us to just have a moment. So I have a question. Have you ever been really stressed about that thing that we talked about earlier, and then you finally realize, like, I need to take a moment to process this? That's a phrase that I hear a lot in my own mind. I need to take a moment. And then you finally get that 5 minutes, and you finally can close the door, and nobody's in there. And you realize that instead of actually taking the moment to deal with it, like, you're too upset to do that, you can't even do it. So instead, your mind just gives you more crap to think about, and you actually move on to the next item on your list, some other problem to solve, because we haven't been taught how to actually deal with it. And we also are very much convinced that 5 minutes is not long enough to deal with it. We're like, no, we have to solve the problem. It needs to never happen again. So this is the moment, guys. This is the thing. If you remember nothing else, let's remember this. The point is not to prevent bad things from ever happening again. They're gonna happen again. So when we get ourselves caught in the situation, that feeling that we were having at the beginning, right? When I said, tap into your body, what's going on in there? It's gonna happen again. So it's okay. It's okay that it's happening. What if we were able to look at that sensation, or to recognize that sensation coming up, or recognize the story that we have about it coming up. And when we hit that moment where we're like, oh my God, I can't take anymore. I need this to stop. I need to shut my door and take a moment to deal with it. We realize that taking the moment to deal with it does not mean taking a moment to solve life. It isn't that. It's taking a moment to be with that sensation and to say, yes, that's what's happening. I'm here. And actually, it's okay. We are still alive. And somehow, we're going to make it through. We have everything we need to survive this. We're actually in a safe room right now. We're not being chased by lions, so it's actually okay. Whew. The IRS isn't going to come knock down my door right now and steal all my stuff. It's completely fine. You don't need to be scared. And all of those fears, all the things that are happening, they aren't happening right now in this moment. And even if they are, you're doing the best you can. So you're there with yourself in the moment. if you can, you take your hand to your heart or whatever you feel you need to do. I find using your body as a vehicle through which to experience stress moving into calm is an amazing, amazing thing. So you're there with your body and you go, okay, my head is feeling like bing, bing, bing. Like if I could imagine there's atoms in there just bouncing all over the inside of my skull, like it's thinking a lot. Okay, cool. All right. My throat is feeling tight, like maybe I want to scream or something like that. My shoulders, actually, they're feeling okay. Isn't that interesting? And I move down, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm still a little clenched, like in my torso, it feels a little tight. I'm still a little upset. Whew, heart is beating a little fast. But as I breathe, I am getting enough air. What if I thought about that? Air going in, air going out. I can move. I can shift my body. If something needs to get out of me, I'm going to do it. And you're allowed to do that. And it's actually a really healthy and wonderful way to be kind to yourself and to have more compassion for yourself going through this experience, this repetitive experience of handling stress and dealing with being alive and embodied. It is what it is to be alive. And it's okay. And it's okay. Because guess what? We don't have to be perfect. Let me tell you, if I could become a tattoo artist, and of course I'm not even going to say I was the best tattoo artist. I don't know that I was. I think I was decent. I hope so. Many people have tattoos by me. I sure hope it was wonderful. I really enjoyed doing it. I strive to be better and better at it every day. But thank God perfection is not required in order to exist and do anything. And I want to remind you of that. So when you have that moment where you think, oh God, this is all going crazy, remember that there's a tattoo artist that existed out there who is terrified of blood and couldn't even handle it, and somehow managed to work through that and be okay. If that's possible, then what is possible for you? So I talk about embodiment and being able to be there with your physical sensations because it allows you, again, to do those three things: to agree with yourself about what's happening, to stop telling a story about it, or notice something else that's also true that you could focus on instead. When you are able to switch tracks and go, it's actually about my shoulder being tight. It's not about needing to punch someone in the face, but actually that might kind of feel good. And you're allowed to follow those thoughts and just bring them back to like, okay, and what else is going on? What else do I need to hear? You would be amazed at the amount of insight that comes to you when you allow your 5 minutes to cope with your situation, shut the door and think, to just say, I'm going to be with my body now and I'm not going to look for a solution, and be surprised that solutions actually start to show up because you have left enough space. You can imagine it as when we're in the midst of our stress and our thoughts and our lives and all these things, these judgments that we have about what's happening. You can imagine it like a pipe that's very constricted, and it's tight and small, and it's like being stretched very to its limits, really. And how much energy can get through a very tight rope, right? Like not very much. It's all vibrating and it's very difficult and everything is very anxious. But if you're able to then relax, just like if you're having an asthma attack, right? And everything is like tight and it's difficult to breathe, not a lot of flow is happening. When we're able to be there with ourselves and go, oh, that's what's happening, I need to create some space. And instead of thinking about space in my life, space in this situation, you just go, I just need to create some space in my body for this and allow it to be. Miracles can happen in those moments. So we can take our thoughts, we can take our experiences, and we can take our judgments about it as well. The thoughts that I used to have about like, this is terrible, how am I ever going to overcome it? This is the worst possible scenario. What if I can't make it? What if? And instead of saying, don't have those thoughts, because again, you say that, you immediately start thinking, but I do have those thoughts, and you try to justify them. We go, okay, I have them. I feel terrified, I feel scared, and I'm worried that maybe I'm going to be terrible. Oh my God, I'm going to be terrible. There it is, I'm going to be terrible. And just, if you can, in that moment, you start to open up your awareness and think, I'm thinking about that. I'm thinking, what if I can't do it? I'm feeling tight about it. It's making me feel very anxious. It's hard for me to focus. That's what's happening. So I often will create like a narrative in my head about what's going on. So you can imagine in your life, like you're the star of your book, the star of your movie, and you have a narrator. And that's the part of you that's analyzing everything, right? It's like trying to figure out what's going on. So once you're aware of your narrator, you can start narrating it and being like, there's those thoughts again. And what I've done over the course of my life, and something that I've helped my clients do, is recognize when those thoughts are coming up and say, what if we gave them a space to exist in your mind, in your everyday life, as though they're in the room with you all the time, but they're no longer in charge. They're actually not the star of the movie, and we're not going to let them be the star anymore. So we're going to take that thought, we're going to take those feelings, and we're going to just go, okay, you exist and there's space for you right here. You can be right next to me. You can even hold my hand for now. And we're going to work on you not being in control. Or you can think of it as like you're driving down the highway. Back to my driving fear, right? And the part of me that's really scared of driving, I just go, okay, it's cool that you're scared and you've had some bad experiences, but you get to sit in the back seat and you can just relax because I've got this. I actually have skills and we've survived so far. Here we are. We're driving. We're okay. Just relax. It's fine. And we have something else to look forward to. I'm also a huge fan of giving yourself rewards and giving yourself things to anticipate that are going to be amazing. So for instance, back when I was tattooing, I would anticipate how awesome it was going to be when I had like the first client that was paying me for a tattoo, not just like seeing me as an apprentice and knowing where I was at. What was that going to be like? And then when I got past that, I was like, wow, I wonder what it's going to be like when I can just choose to do something that I designed and not just something that this person chose. What if they asked me for my creative input? I wonder what that's going to be like. And then it would start to happen and I go, oh my gosh, okay, I wonder what it's going to be like when I get even better at doing this and how can I optimize it and change it? So you're giving yourself other things to focus on that are on the path going forward. Sometimes we worry a lot about like what that path is going to bring, but then we do the same thing. We go, that's just a worry. This is something that's here with me and I got it. I'm worried and I'm a little anxious and it makes me feel a little bit like I can't settle down and I can't focus and I can't really do anything because what if I make the wrong decision? What does that part of me need? And for me, usually that part of me just needs a hug. It needs love. It needs some acceptance. You can even imagine those pieces of you as yourself as a child. And it probably actually even started in your childhood, really, like if we get into the psychology of things, right? So we think of that part of ourselves that's stressing out, that's telling us all these things, that's becoming a big tantrum child, taking over our life and pulling all of our attention. And all it wants is our attention, really. Like even just the way I described it, right? Like when you're upset about something, all that upsetness wants is your attention. What would happen if you gave it your attention? And you didn't try to solve it. You just said, it's going to be okay. And I know you have everything you need to solve this. What do you actually need right now? And I want you guys to feel back into your body and find that sensation and say, where is that? What does it need? And imagine that you can almost take that piece of yourself and just separate it like you're in a little movie theater and there's that part of you and there you are looking at it. And it might be you as you are right now or as you were yesterday. It could be you with all crazy stressed out hair and you're like, with the frying pan, everything's going crazy and the kids are nuts. All right, cool. And you see that part of yourself and you're like, oh, hon, come here. And you can imagine that you're able to give yourself a hug. I'm so sorry that you're experiencing this. I'm so sorry that that's happening. I know. It feels terrible. Oh, you're right. It just feels like no one's hearing anything you have to say. Why don't you tell me? And you listen to yourself and you hear what you have to say. And sometimes it can be very simple. I just wanted them to know that this is what actually happened. I wish that they could have really seen me. I wish that they could see how I'm tired and I just need a break. I wish they could see how hard I'm trying. I'm so angry that it seems like everything I do isn't enough. And then you know what it is that you really need. You need to appreciate everything that you've been doing, all of the hard work you've been putting in, because so often we look outside of ourselves and we're like, hey, I want everyone else to give me appreciation. I want them to see how hard I'm working. I want them to know how much I've been putting myself out there for them, everything that I've been overcoming so that they could have a thing. It's making me crazy. And if you're able to be there with yourself in that moment and go, I see and feel, I really feel your agitation and I get it. I appreciate how hard we've been working. We've been doing it because we believe in this. We believe in this work. We wouldn't have done it otherwise. And it's okay that I'm exhausted, that I'm tired, that I just want a moment to myself. It's okay that I don't know what comes next. It's okay that I've just run out of inspiration. Just this once, just for right now. It's okay that I even feel like maybe I'll never feel great about this again. Come here. Let me give you a hug. Let's do it together. It's okay. Because your narrator, that other bigger piece of you, understands the bigger picture more than the part of you that's freaking out about how everything is going to happen, more than the part of you that's just stuck in the loop going, please listen, please listen, please listen. Self-compassion is being able to listen to that part of yourself and say, yes, yes, yes.
Thanks so much for joining me. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and share it with someone you love, and leave us a review. You can learn more and get some self-compassion tips and tricks by visiting coachwithblaze.com, where you can sign up to get my free booklet on overcoming anxiety, overwhelm, exhaustion, and burnout. I'm sending you so much appreciation and love, and I'll see you next time.